Someone's angry out there and I forgot my headphones. I hope you can't hear all of the angry neighbor bullshit. In this week's video, we are movie talking about Flow. This is an animated movie. I think it's on HBO right now. It's really fun. Let's start with a little synopsis of the flick. So, spoiler alert. Then, I will briefly share some of my little opinions about the movie. So watch out. Okay. This movie, Flow. That was more of a jazz hands than it was a flow, but Flow. And I ain't talking about the progressive lady, neither. I'm talking about a movie. I don't even think the cat's name is named Flo. I think that's just the name of the movie. The movie rocks, though. Honestly, this synopsis portion of the video ain't gonna be too long, and probably not the opinion portion of the video either. The movie is not particularly long. It's also very simple and beautiful. The plot is good, but it is the whole movie. There are some things I'm gonna leave out in this synopsis because I do want you to see the movie, and I don't want to give away every single plot point because then it might not be as fun of a watch for you. First, what's up in this movie is a cat. I don't think the cat has a name, so we'll call it Cat. Cat is doing the feline thing all about the woods. There don't seem to be people about, but there are wild dogs in the woods. And I use the word dogs intentionally. They are not wolves, they are not coyotes, they are dogs. But they appear to be wild in some capacity. So the cat does avoid them sometimes. Then they occasionally intersect while chasing a rabbit, let's say. One day, Cat is watching the dogs teach themselves how to fish with their chompers in a river. Some of the dogs don't seem to get it, though, and they try to wrestle the fish from the dogs who do. In the ensuing fight, a fish falls near Cat, who then goes for it. They're spotted by the dogs, and a cat-dog chase quickly ensues. Luckily, Cat runs into a rabbit, and the dogs end up chasing after the rabbit. So Cat stops running and sits on a hill. Then, suddenly, the rabbit and dogs come running back, and they just pass by Cat. Then, to Cat's terror, a stampede of deer run through. What is going on? Cat is very scared. But it gets worse. After the deer pass, a thunderous noise approaches. Trees move and crack. Suddenly, a wall of water seems to be approaching from everywhere, gushing through the forest like a new river being made. Cat is quickly swept up in the current. They manage to grab a tree branch, and briefly, one of the dogs, a golden retriever, does as well. But then they get pushed on. Cat manages to find a shore, which is just more of the forest floor, but it's up a hill. and cat seeks higher ground, eventually returning to what we learn is its home, or what it treats as its home, which is a large house surrounded by man-made cat statues. But there still appear to be no people in sight, and the house looks to be long abandoned. But as I said, it appears that the last human occupant was a sculptor. Not only are there cat sculptures all littered about the yard of this house, but there's also huge cat sculptures, a house or bigger tall, up upon the higher hillsides behind this house. The dog has followed the cat, so even though the cat goes inside the house and sleeps, it wakes up to see the dog, the golden retriever, waiting for it. It just doesn't want to be alone, you know. But then a boat passes by with the other dogs. How did they get a boat? I don't know. We weren't there. The golden hops aboard while the cat stays behind. But this is a questionable move, because the water is rising ever higher everywhere, and cat must go into higher and higher grounds, eventually resting on the top of a truly huge cat sculpture. Within an afternoon, the water overtakes the sculpture, and cat is now forced to swim. But by great fortune, there's an empty boat that happens to be passing by at that moment. Cat jumps aboard to discover that it isn't empty at all. A capybara, or a beaver thing, is already in there. Then the cat and capybara go on a little boat adventure. They gain bird friends, and lemur friends, and more dog friends. And cat learns to work with other animals and be less scared in this ever-changing world. The whole while we're floating through areas clearly marked by human hands. Temples, walls, pillars, and various structures tell a story of creatures with great effect on the world. But even with these giant edifices by which the animals float, and despite the man-made boat upon which they ride, there are no humans to be seen in this film whatsoever. It's a little spooky. Then, for some reason, the water recedes, and cat finds themselves back in the forest near where this latest journey had started. We are left to wonder if that flood was a tsunami, or if it is a flooding connected to the tides, or perhaps an irregular occurrence. And cat did good, and it's over. I love this movie. I love this movie for the cute animation. I think the cat is, it's a kind of abstract-y computer animation, so the creatures and the world look brushed in a almost old video gamey sort of way that has a weird nostalgia if you remember video games from the late 90s and early 2000s. But it's also pretty, you know, despite this style. It's not sloppy. Everything has intention. And it's a story that is moving. Not a word is spoken, and it's perfectly engaging. I don't need a human voice narrating it for me. It just flows. What of course is the underwriting, never answered mystery of the movie is the fact that humanity has existed in this world. Not only is that obvious through houses and various structures that have to be man-made, but also stuff like wild dogs. Wild dogs in a freaking forest, like a golden retriever and like a German shepherd and like a poodle thing. These are not dogs that typically roam free, I guess is the way I'd say it. So where are they? It's I think given that everything does appear decayed and it does not seem like there are any humans of any kind, nor human remains of any kind, that it has been a while that the humans have been gone. Now, since certain structures, like the house, are still intact, that indicates to me that while it has been a while, it might not be much longer than 100 years, just because the house is in pretty good condition, and if events like floods are overtaking it, rising above the level of the house, I mean, maybe this was the first time that happened to that house, who's to say, but if that's something that happens otherwise, a structure can only take that so many times before it looks a lot worse than it does in this movie. So that begs the question, not only, how long has it been, which I would say long enough to where there's no signs of humans other than what their hands have made, but not so long that those signs have radically decayed beyond recognition. It means it can't have been that long. Which begs the question, what took out the humans? Did they leave Earth? Were they annihilated by some disease? If it was war, there isn't much evidence for that, but it could have been potentially biological or chemical warfare. But there isn't a lot of destruction evidence. The dogs seem pretty well acquainted with the woods in their lives. They don't seem like dogs they seem like dogs that were bred by humans, but they don't seem like dogs that were raised by humans, They are all domesticated breeds, but they behave as a weird, goofy pack. So, wild born, I would guess. It's an interesting movie. And I like a movie that is sweet, and it's about different animals working together to survive. And it is about that in the environment where other smarter animals did not survive. And maybe that lack of survival was through not working together. It is a very interesting movie in that sense, to be a movie about survival and community taking place in a setting of vestiges of humanity and human community. But clearly, that did not lead to survival since there are no humans. It's got layers, baby, and we love a movie with layers. And I think that about wraps us up for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed this movie talk ASMR, and that you are relaxed and have opinions opinions of your own. If you haven't seen Flow, 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 I recommend watching it when it is available to you. If you have seen it, what are your thoughts on the movie? I would love to read some comments and some opinions. This movie's got a lot going on, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few opinions out there. Throw them in the comments. And as for the rest of your day, or your evening, or your night, I hope it is good vibes that you can veg out. And for the rest of your evening or night, I hope it is good vibes. I hope that you can veg out, or sleep, or whatever you need to do. And just, go with the flow. The end.